She actually laughed when I asked if I could come. You? On this trip? Jenna, you don't belong in Tuscany. You'd just ruin the vibe. Then she told the whole family I couldn't afford it, and uninvited me from my own cousin's birthday. I sat there, holding my phone, shaking, until I saw the villa post. That's when something in me cracked open. I didn't beg, I didn't fight, I made one call and booked the entire property under my name. She didn't know it yet, but the view she'd been bragging about, I was already sipping espresso on that balcony when her taxi pulled up. But before we begin, let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. My name is Jenna Calloway, and I'm 35 years old. I coordinate logistics for a Seattle shipping firm, tracking cargo across 3 continents with military precision. My older sister Lauren, the marketing consultant who never met a spotlight she didn't claim, still treats me like the afterthought I was growing up. Since losing our parents 2 years ago, I've tried keeping our fraying family bonds intact, but Lauren's subtle digs and social media performances wear me down. My fingers trace the edge of my perfectly organized desk calendar, each month a testament to the quiet control that's become my signature. Lauren may have the charisma, but she never noticed how I turned being overlooked into an art form. My shoulders straighten as I check my banking app, seeing the bonus that just cleared. But let me start from the beginning. My cousin Ellie's 50th birthday had been the talk of our scattered family for months, a milestone celebration in Tuscany, something about renting a villa, drinking wine under the Italian sun, and pretending we were all living our best Diane Lane movie moments. "It's going to be epic," Ellie had gushed during our last phone call. "Nothing set in stone yet, but probably late May. Perfect weather, fewer tourists." I marked it in my calendar immediately, a bright yellow highlight across 2 potential weeks. That's me, the planner, the one who makes room for possibilities before they're even confirmed. I wasn't sure who all was going, but I knew Lauren would be there. My sister never missed a chance to be part of something Instagram-worthy, and Tuscany? That was practically made for her aesthetic. I stared at her latest social media post. Lauren at some rooftop bar, champagne glass tilted just so, caption reading, "Planning big things. Should watch this space." You know that moment when you think, maybe this time it'll be different? That's where I was when I picked up my phone one Tuesday evening, curled into the corner of my couch with a mug of chamomile tea steaming beside me. The rain tapped against my apartment windows, a gentle Seattle rhythm that always made me feel both isolated and cocooned. I typed, deleted, and retyped the message 3 times before settling on something simple. "Let's go to Italy together for Ellie's birthday. Like old times." My thumb hovered over the send button for a full minute. Was I setting myself up for disappointment? The last old times we'd shared involved Lauren criticizing my outfit choices throughout our cousin's wedding, and then ditching me at the reception to hang out with the photographer's assistant. But wasn't family about second chances? Third chances? The infinite chances because we're bound by blood kind of thing? I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. The message showed as read almost immediately. I watched the screen, waiting for those 3 little dots to appear. They never did. I set my phone down and picked up my tea, now cool enough to drink. "She's probably just busy," I murmured to the empty room. "She'll respond tomorrow." But tomorrow came and went. So did the next day, and the one after that. By Friday, I convinced myself to follow up. Maybe she hadn't understood what I meant. Maybe she thought I was just making conversation. "Seriously thinking about booking flights soon. Would be nice to coordinate with you. Let me know." Read. No response. Have you ever felt like you're shouting into a void? Like you're the only one still trying to hold on to something while the other person has already let go? That hollow feeling spread through my chest as the weekend passed without a word. Monday morning, I called Aunt Patty, hoping for news about the trip details. "Oh, it's all coming together," she chirped. "Lauren's been just wonderful about researching options. Such a go-getter, that girl." My stomach tightened. "Lauren's coordinating the trip?" "Well, not officially, but you know how she is. Takes charge. Has the vision." Aunt Patty's voice softened. "Are you joining us, dear? It would be lovely to have you." I'm planning on it," I said, fingers gripping my phone tighter. "I've been trying to connect with Lauren about it, actually." "Oh." That single syllable contained volumes. "Well, I'm sure she's just swamped. You know how busy she gets with her clients." Not too busy to research Italian villas, apparently. I remembered summers at our grandparents' lake house, Lauren always claiming the top bunk, always choosing the first marshmallow to roast, always deciding which board game we'd play. Me, always adjusting, always accommodating. The scent of pine and sunscreen, the squeak of the screen door, memories that suddenly felt like they belonged to someone else's childhood. 3 weeks after my initial text, I was scrolling through my feed during lunch when I saw it. A photo of a stunning stone villa with terracotta tiles and a sparkling pool, posted by our cousin Megan. The caption read, "Can't wait for Ellie's birthday extravaganza in this gorgeous place. Thanks, Lauren Calloway, for organizing. Tuscany bound. Squad. Birthday vibes." I zoomed in on the image, taking in the lush gardens, the outdoor dining area under a pergola draped with wisteria. Then I scrolled through the comments, looking for any mention of my name, any "Jenna's coming too," or "the whole family together." Nothing. I clicked to see who was tagged. Ellie, Megan, Aunt Patty, 3 cousins, 2 friends of Ellie's I barely knew. Lauren, of course, not me. The truth hit like a glass of ice water to the face. Lauren wasn't ignoring my texts because she was busy. She was ignoring them because she'd already decided I wasn't part of the picture she was creating. The perfect villa, the perfect group, the perfect sister wasn't me. I set my phone down on my desk, screen face down. My lunch, a carefully packed quinoa salad, sat untouched beside it. The office around me continued its normal hum of activity, completely unaware that my world had just tilted sideways. Had she told them I wasn't interested? That I couldn't afford it? That I was too boring to include? I picked up my phone again, opened our message thread, and stared at those 2 blue-red receipts, tiny digital confirmations of my sister's deliberate silence. What would happen if I called her out, demanded an explanation, told everyone else I'd been deliberately excluded? But I already knew. Lauren would spin it. She always did. And somehow, I'd end up looking like the problem. My finger hovered over the keyboard, a dozen angry messages forming and dissolving in my mind. Instead, I locked my screen and slipped the phone into my desk drawer. Not yet. Not until I knew exactly what game she was playing. 2 days later, I was waiting for coffee at my favorite neighborhood shop when my phone buzzed with a notification. Another post from Megan, this time a collage of swimsuits and sun hats with the caption, "Packing list started. T-minus 46 days until the Tarn Tuscany takeover with the best crew ever." 13 likes already. I tapped to see the comments. Lauren had replied first. "Girls' trip of the century. Can't wait to make memories with all of you." Below that, a string of excited responses, each one a tiny needle under my skin. "Squad goals. Already bought 3 new dresses. Lauren, you're a rock star for finding this place." There it was again. Lauren, the organizer. Lauren, the connector. Lauren, the heart of it all. And there I was, scrolling through their excitement like some stranger peeking through a window. "Your latte." The barista's voice startled me back to reality. I took my drink with a mumbled thanks and found a corner table, my eyes still fixed on my phone. I opened the photo of the villa again, studying its rustic stone walls and sweeping hillside views. It was exactly the kind of place I'd always dreamed of visiting. Authentic Tuscany, not some tourist trap. The kind of place where you could sit on a terrace at sunset, sipping local wine, letting the warmth of the day settle into your bones. And I wouldn't be there. My coffee cooled as I scrolled through the comments again, looking for any hint that my absence had been noticed or questioned. Nothing. I remembered our childhood vacations. Lauren always in the front seat, always choosing the restaurant, always the first to tell the story when we got back. Me in the back, quietly making sure we had maps, snacks, and Band-Aids for inevitable scraped knees. Now she was doing it again, only this time she'd decided I didn't even deserve the back seat. Just then, a call from Aunt Patty lit up my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail but answered at the last second. "Jenna, darling, just checking in. Haven't heard from you about the Tuscany trip. You did see Megan's posts, right?" My throat tightened. "I saw." "Well, aren't you excited? That villa looks absolutely divine." I closed my eyes, steadying myself. "Actually, I wasn't invited." A pause. "What do you mean? Of course you're invited. It's for Ellie's birthday, all the family. Lauren's organizing it," I said quietly. She never responded to my texts about it. "Oh." Another pause, longer this time. "Well, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. You know how these things get confused." "It's not confused, Aunt Patty." My name isn't on any of the posts. Lauren's been ignoring my messages for weeks. Oh, honey. Her voice softened in that way adults do when talking to disappointed children. Lauren did mention you might not be joining us. My stomach dropped. What did she say exactly? Well, she hesitated. She just said that with your job and everything, you probably couldn't swing it financially right now. And that maybe it was for the best, because you've been so, what was the phrase? Negative energy lately? The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm, too crowded. My cheeks burned as if everyone could hear this conversation, could see this humiliation playing out in real time. That's not true, I managed. I can afford it. And I'm not. Of course you're not, dear. I told her that. You've always been the sensible one. But you know, Lauren, she likes things a certain way. She's planned all these activities, and well, her voice trailed off. Well, what? The words came out sharper than I intended. Nothing, nothing. Listen, why don't I talk to her? Clear things up? No. The word was firm, final. Don't say anything. After promising Aunt Patty I was fine. Just fine. I ended the call and sat staring at the wall, my untouched latte now completely cold. Negative energy. Couldn't afford it. The old familiar role. Jenna the downer, Jenna the practical one, Jenna who would ruin everyone's good time with her. What? My existence? My audacity to want inclusion in my own family? You ever have one of those moments when humiliation transforms into something else entirely? Something hot and clarifying, like metal in a forge? I opened my laptop and searched for the villa. It wasn't hard to find. A stunning 16th century stone farmhouse on a Tuscan hillside, complete with pool, olive grove, and vineyard views. Ellie had dropped enough clues in her comments about the location. I found the rental site and scrolled through the photo gallery, imagining my sister there, playing hostess, soaking up the admiration, probably claiming she'd discovered this hidden gem all on her own. That's when I noticed something in the booking details, something that made me sit up straighter, my heart suddenly beating a different rhythm. The property required a 50% deposit to hold the reservation, with the remaining balance due 30 days before arrival, and today was exactly 46 days before their trip. I enlarged the screen, hovering the cursor over the payment information section. There it was in plain text. Reservation status. Pending final payment. My fingertips tingled. I knew how these luxury vacation rentals worked. I'd coordinated enough corporate retreats to understand their policies inside and out. They weren't like hotels. They required planning, commitments, contracts. I clicked through to the property management company's website. Mediterranean Luxury Villas. Sleek interface, professional photos, 5-star reviews. I found their terms and conditions page and began to read, my eyes darting between paragraphs of legalese. Final payment due 30 days prior to arrival date. Failure to complete payment may result in cancellation of reservation. New bookings will take priority over incomplete reservations. My heart wasn't racing with hope or excitement. No, this was different. A slow-burning, calculated fury that made every nerve ending sharpen. The kind of anger that doesn't cloud judgment, but instead crystallizes it. Have you ever felt that? When your entire body becomes a precision instrument, tuned to a singular purpose? I opened another tab and searched for the property management company's contact information. They had an office in Florence with both Italian and English-speaking staff. Their business hours in local time meant they'd be open for another 3 hours. I glanced at the clock. 8:17 a.m. in Seattle. My hands hovered over the keyboard. What exactly was I planning to do? Call them and what? I wasn't even sure yet, but something was taking shape in my mind, the outline of a possibility I hadn't considered before. Lauren had always been careless with details. It was why I'd spent my childhood double-checking that she hadn't left her homework at home or her swim goggles at the pool. She was all grand gestures and dramatic declarations, not methodical follow-through. Had she forgotten the final payment? Or was she waiting until the last possible moment? Either way, she'd left a door cracked open. And for once, I wasn't going to quietly close it for her. I remembered the Italy trip our parents had taken us on when I was 14 and Lauren 16. The smell of fresh bread from that little bakery in Rome, the cool marble beneath my feet in Florence's museums. Lauren had spent the entire time posing for photos and flirting with local boys while I studied maps and translated snippets of conversation with my beginner's Italian. I clicked on the Contact Us page and found the number for their international clients. My finger hovered over my phone. Was I really considering this? Yes, I was. I picked up my phone and dialed the international number, calculating the time difference to make sure I'd reach a live person. 3 rings, then a cheerful, accented voice answered. Mediterranean Luxury Villas, how may I assist you today? I took a deep breath. Hello, I'm calling about a reservation at Villa Soleato in Tuscany. Of course. May I have the reservation name, please? It should be under Lauren Calloway. A few keyboard clicks. Ah, yes, for arrival on June 18th, party of 8, 7-night stay. What can I help you with? I'm actually calling to check on the payment status. My voice was steady, professional, the same tone I used when managing logistics crises at work. I believe the final payment is due soon. Let me check that for you. More clicks. Yes, the final payment is due in 4 days. We have only received the initial 50% deposit so far. 4 days. Lauren was cutting it close. Typical. I see. And what happens if the payment isn't received by then? Well, after the due date, we would attempt to contact Ms. Calloway. If we cannot reach her, or if payment isn't completed within 48 hours after that, the reservation would be released and become available to other clients. We have several parties interested in that property for those dates. I absorbed this information, each word fueling something dark and determined within me. I hadn't decided what I was going to do yet, but options were aligning like coordinates on a map. One more question, I said. If someone else wanted to book those exact dates, would they be able to do so now? Or would they have to wait until after Lauren's reservation potentially falls through? If someone wished to book those dates now, with immediate full payment, we would first contact Ms. Calloway to give her the opportunity to complete her payment immediately. If she didn't respond or couldn't pay within 24 hours, then yes, we would accept the new booking. I thanked the representative and ended the call, my mind racing with possibilities. The screen of my laptop reflected my face, calm, composed, but with a new intensity in my eyes that even I hardly recognized. This wasn't about a vacation anymore. This was about years of being pushed aside, spoken over, diminished. About Lauren telling our family I couldn't afford the trip, that I was negative energy. I opened my banking app and checked my accounts. My year-end bonus had just cleared last week. I hadn't decided what to do with it yet. Now, I was starting to get ideas. The next morning, I woke before dawn, my mind already racing through checklists and contingencies. Slipping out of bed, I made a strong cup of coffee and settled at my kitchen table with my laptop. The house was still, silent, the perfect backdrop for what I was about to do. I pulled up the villa's website again, admiring the sun-drenched photos of stone archways and sprawling gardens. Villa Soleato. Even the name felt like it was taunting me with its promise of sunshine and relaxation I was supposedly too negative to enjoy. Have you ever had that moment when you know you're about to cross a line? When the old you would hesitate, but something inside has finally, quietly snapped. I checked the time. 1 p.m. in Italy. Perfect. The property manager would be back from lunch. I dialed the number and cleared my throat, settling into what my co-workers called my coordinator voice. Efficient, pleasant, impossible to refuse. The phone rang 3 times before a woman answered. Mediterranean Luxury Villas. This is Sophia speaking. Good afternoon, Sophia. I kept my tone warm but brisk. My name is Anna, and I'm calling on behalf of Lauren Calloway regarding the Villa Soleato reservation for June 18th. Yes, of course. Has Ms. Calloway decided to complete her payment today? It's due quite soon. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, centering myself. Actually, that's exactly why I'm calling. Ms. Calloway would like to finalize the booking today, but she's requested a small modification. For tax purposes, she needs the reservation transferred to her sister's name. I see. Sophia sounded cautious, but not suspicious. This happens occasionally with our business clients. We can certainly update the reservation name once payment is complete. Wonderful. I smiled into the phone, though of course she couldn't see it. I have all the payment details ready, and the new name would be Jenna Calloway. Very well. Let me pull up the reservation details. I heard her typing. The remaining balance is $5,170. Would you like to process this payment now? My heart thumped heavily. That was almost my entire bonus. Money I'd planned to put toward a kitchen renovation. But I didn't hesitate. Yes, I'm prepared to make the full payment immediately. Sophia guided me through the wire transfer process. I entered my banking details, confirmed the amount, and authorized the transaction. My fingers didn't shake. It felt like someone else was moving them. Someone more decisive, less forgiving than I'd ever allowed myself to be. Excellent, Ms. Anna. The payment is processing now. We should receive confirmation within the hour, and then I'll update the reservation to Ms. Jenna Calloway's name. Would you like me to send the confirmation documents to Ms. Lauren's email on file, or would you prefer a different address? Please send them directly to Jenna. I gave her my personal email. Lauren wants her sister to have all the documentation since she'll be the primary guest. Of course. Not a problem. Sophia's voice was pleasant, unquestioning. Is there anything else I can help with today? Just one thing. Could you confirm that this change means Jenna Calloway is now the legal reservation holder? Lauren wants to make sure everything is properly transferred. Absolutely. Once the payment clears and we update the system, Ms. Jenna Calloway will be the official reservation holder with all associated rights to the property during the stay dates. The villa will be hers to access and enjoy with her guests. I felt a surge of satisfaction so intense it almost made me dizzy. Perfect. Thank you so much for your help. After ending the call, I sat motionless at my kitchen table, staring at my coffee, now cold. The magnitude of what I'd just done settled over me. Years ago, on our family trip to Italy, Lauren had accidentally locked me out of our shared hotel room while she entertained friends she'd made at the pool. I'd spent 3 hours sitting in the hallway with my book, too embarrassed to ask the front desk for help. The memory of that cool marble hallway floor against my legs suddenly felt very present. 45 minutes later, my email pinged. The payment had cleared. Attached was my confirmation. Villa Soleado, June 18th, 25, reserved for Jenna Calloway and guests. It was mine, legally mine. I printed the confirmation and placed it carefully in a folder. Then I did something that surprised even me. Absolutely nothing. I didn't call Lauren. I didn't post anything online. I didn't cancel her plans or alert anyone in the family. I simply let the wheels keep turning. Let Lauren keep collecting RSVPs and planning excursions. Let her keep posting excited updates about her villa. Because the thing about my sister is, she never bothered to understand what I did for a living. Logistics coordination isn't just about moving pieces around, it's about timing. Knowing exactly when to make your move for maximum impact. And my timing on this, it was going to be absolutely perfect. In the weeks that followed, my social media became a strange obsession. Every morning I'd wake up, make my coffee, and scroll through Lauren's latest updates about her upcoming Italian adventure. The posts increased as the departure date grew closer. T-18 days until villa life, she wrote beneath a photo of new sandals. Packing cubes are a must for Italian travel. Whicher organized Dr. Villa vibes appeared under a flat lay of colorful travel accessories. Each time my phone pinged with her updates, I felt nothing but a cool, settled calm. You know that feeling when you're playing chess and you've seen the winning move 6 turns ahead? That was me. Watching. Waiting. Letting her perform for an audience that had no idea what was coming. Aren't you going to say something? My friend Alicia asked over lunch, 3 weeks before the trip. Call her out? Tell the family? I smiled and speared a cucumber slice. Not yet. You're freaking me out a little, she said, but she was smiling too. Have you ever felt that strange power that comes with having a secret? The way it makes you stand taller, speak more confidently? That was me during those waiting weeks. I moved through my days with purpose, knowing something no one else knew. 2 weeks before departure, I requested vacation time from work. My boss raised his eyebrows. I rarely took time off. Italy? He asked, signing the form. Family trip. Something like that, I replied. I booked my flight for a day earlier than the group's arrival. Lauren had chosen a Sunday arrival, probably to save on airfare. I selected Saturday, willing to pay the premium for that critical head start. I packed methodically. Lightweight summer clothes, comfortable walking shoes, my passport with its faded stamps from college travels, the scent of those worn pages bringing back memories of the one trip I'd taken without Lauren's shadow hanging over me. 10 days out, Lauren posted a countdown graphic with everyone's flight details. There were 6 names listed. Mine wasn't one of them. Everyone's flights are confirmed. Villa Soleado awaits, she wrote, adding a wineglass emoji and the Italian flag. The comments section filled with excitement. My cousin Becca wrote, Can't believe we're celebrating my 50th in Italy. So grateful for everyone making this happen. I felt a twinge at that. Not guilt, clarity. This was Becca's birthday trip after all. I made a mental note to make sure she had the celebration she deserved, regardless of what happened with Lauren. 3 days before departure, I received a group text from Becca. It went to everyone, including me. Hey ladies, just double-checking everyone's arrival times at Florence Airport so we can coordinate transportation to the villa. Lauren responded almost immediately. I've got it handled, Bex. I've arranged a van for the 6 of us landing Sunday. Don't worry about a thing. Becca replied, What about Jenna? Isn't she coming too? There was a long pause before Lauren answered. Jenna couldn't make it. Money stuff. You know how it is. My fingers hovered over my phone. Not yet. Not time yet. Becca responded with a sad face emoji. That's too bad. I was hoping the whole family could be there. I put my phone down and continued packing my bags. In my wallet, I tucked the printed villa confirmation. In my carry-on, I placed the folder with all documentation, including the payment receipt with my name clearly visible. The night before my flight, I double-checked everything. Weather forecast for Florence, clear skies, 78 degrees, perfect. My passport and boarding pass were in the front pocket of my carry-on. The villa access code, 4876, was saved in my phone and written on a card in my wallet. I'd memorized it anyway. I slept soundly that night, better than I had in weeks. My flight left at 6:15 the next morning. As I waited at my gate, I saw that Lauren had posted again. Pre-Italy shopping spree, because you can't show up in Tuscany without new sunglasses. Tarster, tomorrow we leave. The comments were flooding in with well wishes and excitement. She was still in New York, probably spending the day before her flight shopping and getting a manicure. I turned my phone to airplane mode as we began boarding. 8 hours later, I landed in Florence. The air had that special Italian warmth as I stepped outside the terminal and hailed a taxi. Villa Soleato, per favore, I told the driver, my Italian rusty but serviceable. The villa was even more beautiful than the photos. Terracotta and stone, nestled among cypress trees, with a view that swept across the Tuscan countryside. I punched in the access code at the gate, and it swung open with a satisfying click. The property manager, Sophia, was waiting in the courtyard. Ms. Calloway? She asked, extending her hand. Yes, that's me, I replied, shaking it firmly. Welcome to Villa Soleato. Let me show you around your home for the week. My home. Not Lauren's. Mine. I followed Sophia through rooms with high ceilings and terracotta floors. Each bedroom was prepared with fresh linens and flowers. The kitchen was stocked with local wine, bread, and olive oil. From the main terrace, I could see vineyards stretching toward distant hills. Will the rest of your party be arriving tomorrow? Sophia asked as she handed me the keys. Yes, I replied, accepting them. Tomorrow. After she left, I stood alone in the courtyard, keys in hand, the late afternoon sun warming my face. Lauren was still at JFK, probably taking airport selfies with the group, completely unaware that I was already here. I smiled and whispered to myself, Welcome to Italy, sis. The first morning at Villa Soleato, I woke to sunlight streaming through gauzy curtains. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all rushed back. The villa, Lauren, my plan. I stretched and ran my fingers over the crisp linen sheets. They smelled faintly of lavender, probably dried in the Tuscan sun. This master bedroom, the one Lauren had undoubtedly claimed for herself in her mental floor plan, had a balcony that overlooked rolling hills dotted with cypress trees. After a quick shower in the marble bathroom, I wrapped myself in the plush robe hanging on the door and padded downstairs. The kitchen was a chef's dream, copper pots hanging from a rack, a massive farmhouse sink, and a professional-grade espresso machine that practically begged to be used. I fiddled with the buttons until I managed to produce a perfect crema-topped espresso. The first sip was heaven. Bitter, rich, and nothing like the watered-down stuff I drank at home. You ever notice how coffee tastes different when you're somewhere new? Like your taste buds are as awake as your eyes, taking in everything with fresh attention. Taking my cup, I wandered through the villa again, appreciating details I'd missed the day before. Hand-painted tiles in the bathrooms, antique wooden beams crossing the ceilings, books in Italian and English stacked on side tables. Each room told a story of comfort and care. On the main terrace, I settled into a wrought iron chair and watched the morning unfold. Birds called to each other across the valley. A distant church bell rang 8 times. I tried to remember the last time I'd sat still long enough to just breathe. After breakfast, fresh bread from the welcome basket with local honey, I checked my phone. No messages from Lauren, but my cousin Becca had sent a group text. Boarding now. Italy, here we come. My stomach tightened. According to their itinerary, they'd land around 3:00 p.m. I had about 6 hours left of peaceful solitude. I spent them deliberately. A walk through the nearby vineyard. A long, luxurious swim in the infinity pool that seemed to drop right into the valley below. I even took a nap on a lounger, something I never allowed myself at home. At 4:15, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. My heart jumped into my throat. I smoothed my sundress, a new one I'd bought especially for this moment, and took a deep breath. Then another. The sound of roller bags scraping across stone reached me, followed by excited voices. Lauren's distinctive laugh rose above the others. I can't believe we're actually here. That was Becca. Didn't I tell you it was spectacular? Lauren, of course. Wait till you see the pool. It's in all the photos I showed you. I walked to the main entrance, my sandals clicking softly on the tiles. Through the mullioned glass of the front door, I could see them. 6 women in travel clothes, surrounded by luggage, faces turned up to admire the villa's facade. My hand trembled slightly as I pulled the door open. The conversation stopped abruptly. 6 pairs of eyes swiveled to me. Jenna? Becca's voice was confused but pleased. You made it after all. Lauren's mouth fell open. Her sunglasses slid down her nose, revealing wide, disbelieving eyes. What the hell are you doing here? I leaned against the door frame, forcing a casual posture my racing heart didn't feel. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tuscany. Lauren recovered quickly, pushing past her initial shock. Very funny. Now let us in. We've been traveling forever and I need a shower. I didn't move from the doorway. This villa's already booked. Yeah, by me, Lauren snapped. Stop playing games and let us in. The other women exchanged uncomfortable glances. One of them, Marissa, I think, whispered something to Becca, who looked increasingly concerned. Lauren, I said evenly, you never finalized the booking. The villa is reserved under my name for the week. Her face flushed an angry red. That's ridiculous. I put down the deposit months ago. But never paid the balance, I replied. I have the confirmation right here. I pulled the paper from my pocket, unfolded it carefully. Lauren snatched it from my hand, her eyes scanning frantically. When she reached the bottom, where my name appeared in bold, her hand began to shake. This is fraud, she spluttered. You pretended to be me. Actually, I was very clear about who I was, I said. The manager has all my information. Lauren turned to the group, her voice rising. She's lying. She's doing this to sabotage our trip. The women shifted uncomfortably. Becca stepped forward, always the peacemaker. Jenna, honey, there must be some misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, I said firmly. I have the keys. I've paid in full. The villa is booked under my name. Lauren's face contorted with fury. She pushed past me into the foyer, dragging her suitcase. This is my reservation and I'm not leaving. I stepped aside, oddly calm now that the confrontation was happening. You're trespassing, Lauren. She whipped out her phone. We'll see about that. Her fingers jabbed at the screen. I'm calling the police. They'll sort this out real quick. Becca gasped. Lauren, wait! But Lauren was already speaking rapidly into her phone, first in broken Italian, then switching to English when she got frustrated. I heard her say fraud and theft, and my sister with venom. She hung up, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. They're on their way. Hope you enjoyed your little power trip, Jenna, because it's about to end. I simply nodded and said, We'll see. The other women stood frozen on the gravel drive, caught in a drama none of them had signed up for. I felt a pang of sympathy for them, especially Becca, whose birthday celebration was being hijacked by this sisterly showdown. But as I watched Lauren pace the foyer, muttering threats under her breath, that sympathy hardened into resolve. She'd excluded me, lied about me, and now expected me to back down? Not this time. 20 minutes crawled by like a lifetime. Lauren kept pacing the foyer, alternating between furious phone calls and shooting daggers at me with her eyes. The rest of the group huddled awkwardly on the gravel drive, their enthusiasm for the dream vacation visibly deflating with each passing minute. I stood my ground just inside the doorway, pulse steady. I'd prepared for this moment, mentally rehearsed it during my flight over. "They're here," someone murmured. A white police car with Polizia emblazoned on the side pulled up, its tires crunching on the gravel. Two officers stepped out, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, and a younger woman with her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Lauren practically sprinted toward them, her designer sandals kicking up dust. "Thank God you're here," she gushed, switching to her charm offensive. "I'm Lauren Calloway. I rented this villa months ago, and my sister," she jabbed a finger in my direction, "has somehow manipulated her way in and is refusing to let us enter our rental." The female officer nodded professionally, while her partner approached me. "Buongiorno, signora. May I see identification, please?" I pulled out my passport and handed it over. "I also have these," I added, retrieving the folder I'd prepared containing the booking confirmation, payment receipt, and email correspondence with the property manager. "Remember when I was 12 and organized Dad's entire home office during summer break? Color-coded files, alphabetized folders, everything labeled and in its place." He'd been impressed, but Lauren had rolled her eyes. "Who cares about being organized? That's so boring." Turns out being boring and organized has its advantages. The officer took the documents and began reviewing them methodically. Lauren hovered nearby, her confidence starting to crack. "This is all a misunderstanding," she insisted, louder now. "I made the initial booking. I paid the deposit." The female officer spoke in accented but clear English. "Signora, please lower your voice." "But she stole my reservation." The male officer looked up from my documents. "The booking is in the name of Jenna Calloway, with payment in full received 8 days ago." "Check the original deposit," Lauren demanded. "That was mine." He nodded. "Yes, there was a deposit under Lauren Calloway, but the final payment was never completed by the required date. The property manager has confirmed that the booking then went to Ms. Jenna Calloway." Lauren's face contorted. That's not possible. I was going to pay when we arrived." "That is not how villa rentals work in Tuscany, signora," the female officer explained patiently. "Full payment is required before occupancy." I could see the realization dawning on her friends' faces. Marissa whispered something to the woman beside her. Becca looked crushed, caught between loyalty and embarrassment. "She's my sister," Lauren said, her voice cracking. "She did this deliberately to sabotage me." The male officer handed my documents back to me. "Family disputes are not police matters unless laws are broken. The villa is legally rented to Signora Jenna for the next 10 days. "But what about us?" Lauren gestured wildly to her friends and the pile of luggage. "Where are we supposed to go?" The female officer's expression softened slightly. "There are many hotels in Florence, signora. I can recommend some if you need." I noticed Claudia, one of Lauren's friends I'd only met twice before, step away from the group and pull out her phone. She spoke quietly, nodding, and then slipped her phone back into her pocket. A moment later, she whispered something to 2 other women, who both nodded. Lauren was still arguing, her voice rising again. "This is unacceptable. I'm going to call the American embassy." The male officer sighed. "Signora, please understand. This is a civil matter, not criminal. The villa belongs to the person who paid for it, which is Signora Jenna. If you wish to dispute this, you must do so through proper legal channels." Lauren turned to her friends, expecting support, but found their expressions had changed. Claudia stepped forward. "I've called for 2 taxis," she said quietly. "They'll be here in 10 minutes to take us back to Florence." "What?" Lauren's voice was shrill. "No, we're not leaving." Becca touched Lauren's arm gently. "Lauren, honey, we can't stay here. The villa isn't ours." "But I planned everything. The winery tours, the cooking class." "We can still do those things," Becca said reasonably. "We just need to find another place to stay." The officers, seeing that the situation was de-escalating, began walking back to their car. The male officer turned to me. "Is there anything else you need, signora?" "No, thank you," I replied. "I appreciate your help." He nodded and handed me a card. "Call if there are any further problems." As they drove away, Lauren stood frozen, watching her carefully orchestrated vacation crumble before her eyes. Her friends were already reorganizing their luggage, faces tense with disappointment and awkwardness. "I hope you're happy," Lauren hissed at me, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "You've ruined everything." I met her gaze steadily. The villa is legally mine for the next 10 days, Lauren. You're welcome to stay in Florence. Her eyes widened with disbelief. For once in her life, Lauren Calloway was speechless. Lauren stumbled back, her face flushing crimson. Without another word, she spun around and stormed off to a stone bench under an olive tree, about 30 feet from the villa's entrance. She dropped onto it dramatically, yanking out her phone, fingers stabbing at the screen. I turned to face the remaining women, most of whom I barely knew. "I'm really sorry about the confusion," I said, my voice calm and even. "I know this isn't what you expected." Becca stepped forward, confusion etched across her face. "Jenna, I don't understand what happened. Lauren told us you couldn't come. Couldn't come? Or wasn't invited?" I raised an eyebrow. Claudia crossed her arms. "She specifically said you couldn't afford it and didn't want to join anyway because you were going through some personal stuff." My chest tightened. The lies were even worse than I'd imagined. "I never said that. In fact, I texted Lauren weeks ago asking to join, and she never responded." "This is really awkward," said Marissa, already backing away toward the driveway. "I think Claudia's right. We should find a hotel." 2 taxis appeared at the end of the gravel drive, right on cue. Claudia glanced at her watch and nodded. "Those are for us. We're leaving now?" Becca looked torn, glancing between me and Lauren on her distant bench. "I've already booked us rooms at the Hotel Brunelleschi," Claudia said firmly. "It's in the center of Florence, actually closer to most of the sites." Lauren's head snapped up at this, her face a mask of betrayal. "You did what?" Claudia shrugged. "I made an executive decision. The rest of us would like to salvage our vacation." 2 women I barely recognized, friends of Lauren's from her marketing firm, were already wheeling their luggage toward the waiting taxis. "But I planned everything." Lauren's voice carried across the courtyard. "I made all the reservations, the cooking class, the wine tour." One of the women called back without stopping. "You can still join us at the hotel." I watched as Lauren's carefully orchestrated trip unraveled strand by strand. She'd always been the center of attention, the ringleader. Now her cast was deserting the stage. "Wait!" Lauren jumped up from the bench, rushing after them. "Just give me 5 minutes to figure this out." But Marissa was already climbing into the first taxi, her expression a mix of embarrassment and irritation. She didn't even look back at Lauren. "Seriously?" Lauren's voice broke. "After everything I arranged?" Claudia paused before getting into the second taxi. "You misled us about the villa, Lauren. And apparently about your sister, too." She handed the driver some euros and slid into the back seat. "Remember summer camp when I was 8? Lauren accidentally pushed me into the lake during the group photo, then spent the rest of the session telling everyone I'd slipped because I was clumsy. This felt like payback for that moment and 100 others like it." Becca lingered behind, looking uncertainly between Lauren and me. "You can stay if you want," I told her. "There's plenty of room." She bit her lip. "I think I need to go with them for now. This is a lot to process." She squeezed my arm. "Maybe we can meet up tomorrow, when things are calmer?" I nodded. "I'd like that." As the taxis disappeared down the cypress-lined driveway, Lauren stood alone with her expensive luggage, mouth agape. Her phone pinged. She glanced down at it, and I watched her face crumple further. Later, I learned that was a message from Marissa. "Thanks for misleading us about everything. Really classy move." Lauren wheeled her luggage back toward the villa, shoulders slumped into feet. "What am I supposed to do now?" she demanded, voice shaking with rage and humiliation. "There's a bus into Florence every hour," I replied calmly. "The stop is at the end of the road. All the tours and classes I booked were non-refundable," she said, more to herself than to me. "That's over 2,000 euros. That's unfortunate." I kept my voice neutral, though I couldn't help feeling a flicker of satisfaction. Her eyes narrowed. "You planned this. You deliberately sabotaged me." "No, Lauren. I simply paid for a villa that wasn't fully booked yet." I met her gaze steadily. "The rest was all you." The bus came, Lauren left, and suddenly, I had a magnificent Tuscan villa all to myself. The next morning, I wandered down to the village at the foot of the hill. In the tiny cafe, I met Sophia and Marco, a retired couple who owned the local bakery. When they heard I was staying alone at Villa Bianca, they insisted I join them for dinner that evening. "No one should eat alone in Italy," Sophia declared, pressing a warm cornetto into my hands. That night, over homemade pappardelle and local wine, I used my rusty Italian to share stories with their extended family. Marco's cousin Elena, a tour guide, offered to show me Florence's hidden gems, the places tourists never see. When I returned to the villa, I called Becca. "How's the hotel?" I asked. "It's tense," she sighed. "Lauren's been complaining nonstop. 2 more people left this morning. They're going to Rome instead. Would you like to come stay at the villa?" I offered. "There's so much space, and I've met some wonderful locals who are showing me around." There was a pause. "Really? You wouldn't mind?" "Of course not. You're the whole reason for this trip, birthday girl." The next day, Becca arrived with her suitcase and a bottle of Prosecco. We toasted on the terrace as the Tuscan sunset painted the hills gold. "This place feels different now," she said, looking around appreciatively. "Lighter somehow." I nodded, watching swallows dive across the amber sky. It does. But even as we settled into the rhythm of our Italian idyll, I knew there was one more message I needed to send. Not with words, but with an image worth 1,000 of them. 3 days into my unexpected Italian escape, Becca and I decided to explore the weekly market in the village square. The morning sun warmed the cobblestones as we wandered between stalls of local produce, handmade ceramics, and jewelry crafted from Tuscan stones. "Look at these," Becca called, holding up a pair of hand-painted wine glasses. "Wouldn't these be perfect for the terrace?" I nodded, already picturing evenings with those glasses filled with local Chianti. "Absolutely. The blue matches the view." While Becca haggled with the glass vendor, I drifted toward a small stall tucked in the corner of the piazza. A woman with silver-streaked hair arranged watercolor paintings of the countryside. Her weathered hands moved with purpose and grace, each painting carefully positioned. "These are beautiful," I said, picking up a small canvas of the villa perched on its hill. She smiled. "Grazie, I paint what I love." Her English was accented but clear. "I am Lucia. You are staying at Villa Bianca, yes? I see you on the terrace." "I am. I'm Jenna." I extended my hand. "Do you live in the village?" "All my life." She gestured to a younger woman arranging jewelry at the next stall. "My daughter Francesca, too." By the time Becca found me, I'd bought 3 paintings and made plans for aperitivo with Lucia and Francesca that evening. "Making friends?" Becca asked with a grin. "That's what happens when you actually talk to people instead of just posting about them online," I replied, thinking of Lauren's constant social media preening. "Remember those family picnics where Mom would slice watermelon into perfect triangles and Dad would tell his terrible jokes? Lauren always managed to be in every photo, while I was the one taking them. Today, I was stepping into the frame. Late afternoon found the 4 of us on the villa's terrace. Golden hour light bathed everything in amber, making the stone walls glow and our wine glasses sparkle. Francesca had brought fresh bruschetta and local cheeses. Lucia brought more wine. "To new friends," Becca toasted, raising her glass. "And to your birthday," I added. "The reason we're all here." We clinked glasses as the sun began its descent behind the cypress trees. Lucia told stories of growing up in the village, of harvests and festivals and the time a famous actor bought the neighboring villa and scandalized everyone with nude sunbathing. I did not complain, she winked, making us all laugh. I leaned back in my chair, taking in the scene. The stone arch framing the terrace created a perfect backdrop. The ancient villa, the rolling hills beyond, and us, 4 women enjoying life exactly as it should be enjoyed in Tuscany. "Wait," I said, setting down my glass. "We need a photo of this." I positioned my phone on the table, propping it against the wine bottle. The self-timer gave us just enough time to arrange ourselves. Becca and me flanked by our new Italian friends, all of us backlit by that perfect Tuscan sunset, the villa's stone arch framing us like a postcard. The result was stunning. Not because it was perfectly posed or filtered, but because the joy was genuine. You could see it in our eyes, in the relaxed set of our shoulders, in the easy way we leaned into each other like old friends. "Send that to me," Becca said, looking over my shoulder. "It's gorgeous." I nodded, already adding a simple caption. "Found my Italian family. Villa Bianca sunset with Becca Lawson and new friends. Tuscan dreams." With one tap, I posted it to Instagram and shared it directly to our extended family group chat. "You don't mind, do you?" I asked Becca. "I know things are weird with Lauren, but..." She squeezed my shoulder. "Not at all. This is what the trip was supposed to be about. Connection, not drama." We returned to our conversation as my phone began to buzz with notifications. I ignored it, choosing instead to be present with the women around me, to savor the cooling evening air and Francesca's stories about the local gossip. It wasn't until later, after Lucia and Francesca had left with promises to take us olive oil tasting the next day, that I checked my phone. The family chat had exploded. Aunt Diane, what a beautiful photo! You girls look so happy. Uncle Rob, that view, save some wine for us. Cousin Tyler, Mom's jealous. She's already looking at flights. LOL. My Aunt Marianne, so glad you made it after all, Jenna. Lauren made it sound like you couldn't come. I smiled, showing the messages to Becca. She scrolled through them, shaking her head with a laugh. Your little revenge is complete, she said, though I'm not sure it was really about revenge in the end. I thought about that as we cleaned up the terrace. Maybe she was right. It had started as payback, but somewhere between securing the villa and tonight's sunset, it had transformed into something else, reclamation perhaps. Of my voice, my place in the family, my right to be included. The next morning, I woke to bright Tuscan sunshine streaming through the shutters. Stretching, I reached for my phone and checked the group chat out of habit. The notification at the top made me pause. Lauren Calloway has left the conversation. No dramatic exit, no final word, just a silent retreat. Becca knocked on my door, already dressed for our day of exploration. Ready for breakfast? Lucia says the bakery has the best cornetti in Tuscany. I set my phone down, smiling. Absolutely, let me get dressed. As I pulled on a sundress, I realized I didn't feel triumph at Lauren's digital departure, just a quiet certainty that I'd finally found my footing. Not as Lauren's shadow, but as myself. Have you seen the shed out back? Becca asked, buttering a slice of fresh bread the next morning. There's all sorts of interesting stuff in there. I sipped my coffee, savoring the rich aroma that seemed so much more intense here than back home. No, I've been too busy enjoying the view from the terrace. What's in it? Garden tools, some old furniture, painting supplies. The owner must be an artist. There's at least a dozen canvases stacked against the wall. She wiped a crumb from her lip. Want to explore? The morning stretched before us with no real agenda. Our new friends Lucia and Francesca wouldn't be picking us up until after lunch. Why not? I said, draining my cup. Lead the way. We wandered through the garden, past rose bushes and lavender, the morning dew still clinging to the leaves. Remember when we used to play hide and seek in Grandma's garden? The scent of rosemary always brings me back to those summers, the two of us ducking behind hydrangea bushes while Lauren complained about getting her shoes dirty. The shed was charming in that distinctly Tuscan way, weathered stone with a wooden door that creaked dramatically when Becca pulled it open. See? It's like a treasure trove in here. She wasn't exaggerating. Sunlight filtered through a small window, illuminating dust motes that danced above garden shears, clay pots, and yes, canvases in various stages of completion. But what caught my eye was a stack of wooden planks in the corner, smooth and golden. These are beautiful, I said, running my fingers over one. It was about 3 feet long, the wood polished by age, with beveled edges that gave it character. Becca peered over my shoulder. Olive wood, I think. Gorgeous grain. Something clicked in my mind, an idea taking shape. Becca, I said slowly, do you still paint? Like letters and signs and stuff? She gave me a curious look. Sure. Once an art teacher. Always an art teacher. Why? I lifted one of the planks, feeling its solid weight in my hands. What do you think about making a sign for the villa? As a thank you gift for letting us stay. I love it. Her eyes lit up. What should it say? I thought for a moment, remembering all the times I'd been shut out, overlooked, deemed not important enough to include. The hurt of seeing that group photo without me. The casual cruelty of Lauren's lies about me being too broke and bitter to come. But I also thought about what this trip had become. Not just revenge, but reclamation. Finding people who valued me without question. Creating the kind of warmth and welcome I'd always craved in my family. Reserved for those who know what family means, I said finally. Becca's expression softened. Perfect. We gathered supplies, the plank, brushes, and a set of paints we found on a shelf. Back on the terrace, I watched as Becca sketched out the letters in pencil, her hand steady and sure. What do you think? She asked, showing me the layout. Simple, classic. I thought a deep green would look nice against the wood. It's beautiful, I said, meaning it. The letters were elegant but not fussy, the kind that would weather gracefully over time. She painted while I made us more coffee, her brush moving with practiced precision. When she finished, we stood back to admire it. It needs something, she said, tapping her chin with the clean end of her brush. A little flourish. She added a small olive branch at the end, a simple design that echoed the trees surrounding the villa. Now it's perfect, I said. We left it to dry in the Tuscan sun while we ate lunch. Every so often I'd glance over at it, feeling a strange sense of permanence. This wasn't just about getting back at Lauren anymore. It was about marking a boundary, claiming space that was rightfully mine. After lunch, I rummaged through the shed again and found a small hand drill and screws. Ready? I asked Becca, holding up my finds. She nodded, carefully picking up the now dry sign. Where are we putting it? Above the main archway, I said without hesitation, where everyone will see it when they arrive. We positioned a ladder beneath the stone arch that served as the villa's main entrance. I climbed up, drill in hand, while Becca held the sign in position from below. A little to the left, I called down. Perfect. The drill bit met resistance in the ancient mortar between the stones. I applied steady pressure, feeling a drop of sweat trickle down my temple. With each turn of the drill, I felt something inside me solidify, a boundary being drawn, not in anger, but in self-respect. One screw, then another. The wood settled against the stone like it belonged there. How does it look? I called down. Come see for yourself, Becca answered. I descended the ladder and joined her on the gravel path. From this distance, the sign seemed both striking and somehow inevitable, as though the arch had been waiting all these years for just this message. Reserved for those who know what family means. The words hung in the warm air, no longer just a response to Lauren's betrayal, but a declaration of what I valued, what I would and wouldn't accept in my life going forward. It's perfect, Becca said, slipping her arm through mine. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. In that moment, I knew I'd remember this feeling long after the trip ended, this sense of finally standing in my own light. Morning light spilled across the terrace, painting everything in liquid gold. I'd gotten up early, earlier than necessary on our last full day at the villa, just to watch the sun climb over the hills one last time. 9 days had flown by in a blur of pasta-making classes, wine tastings, and afternoons spent reading in the garden. Now, with my cappuccino warming my hands, I savored the quiet. From this vantage point, I could see miles of countryside. Olive groves and vineyards stretched toward the horizon, morning mist still clinging to the valleys between hills. The beauty of it all caught in my throat. How different this trip had turned out from what I'd expected when I'd first texted Lauren about coming together. I took a slow sip of my cappuccino, letting the rich foam linger on my tongue. Remember that little girl who always stood in her sister's shadow? The one who planned and organized while Lauren performed and commanded? That girl had finally stepped into her own light. And I'd done it without screaming matches or public scenes. No tearful confrontations or desperate pleas for inclusion. Just quiet, meticulous planning. The very skills Lauren had always dismissed as boring. The very traits she'd underestimated. The irony wasn't lost on me. My whole life I'd been overlooked for being the practical one, the planner, the one who thought 3 steps ahead. And those exact qualities had given me this perfect moment of justice. A memory surfaced. Dad's old chess set, the way he'd taught me to anticipate my opponent's moves. The loudest player isn't always the winner, Jenna, he'd say. Sometimes it's the one who watches and waits. The scent of his aftershave seemed to float by on the Tuscan breeze, so vivid I almost turned to look for him. The soft sound of footsteps broke my reverie. Becca appeared with her own coffee, hair still rumpled from sleep. I had a feeling I'd find you out here, she said, settling into the chair beside me. Taking it all in? Trying to, I admitted. It's our last full day. She nodded, looking out at the view. This trip didn't turn out the way anyone expected, did it? I laughed softly. That's an understatement. I'm proud of you, you know. She turned to me, her expression earnest. Not just for the whole villa thing, though that was absolutely brilliant, but for how you handled it all. You didn't let her make you small. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Recognition. Not for being perfect or flawless, but for standing my ground. For being strong in my own way. Thanks, I said simply. It feels right. Like I finally stopped trying to fit into the box she'd made for me. The sign stays up after we leave, Becca said with a grin. I checked with the owner yesterday. He loved it. I smiled at the thought of our painted message greeting future guests. Reserved for those who know what family means. A gentle but firm boundary. My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down, expecting a message from work about my return. Instead, my aunt's name appeared on the screen. Becca's been sending me photos, the message read. The villa looks beautiful. I always knew you were the quiet, strong one. I stared at those words, rereading them twice. The quiet, strong one. Not second best, not the afterthought, the strong one. Good news? Becca asked, noticing my expression. I passed her my phone. She read it and smiled. She's right, you know. I nodded, suddenly unable to speak past the tightness in my throat. All those years of feeling invisible, of accommodating Lauren's larger-than-life presence, and someone had seen me all along. We sat in comfortable silence, watching swallows dart between the cypress trees. The morning warmed around us. From the kitchen came the faint sounds of our new friends starting breakfast, the clatter of pans and murmur of conversation. Do you think Lauren learned anything from all this? Becca asked eventually. I considered the question, turning my empty cup between my fingers. I don't know, I answered honestly, but I did. And that was enough. I hadn't pulled off this elaborate plan to teach Lauren a lesson, though that had certainly been part of it. I'd done it to teach myself one, that I deserved to take up space, that my quiet strength was every bit as valid as her loud confidence. The sun climbed higher, burning off the last wisps of morning mist. Another perfect Tuscan day unfurled before us. Our last one, yes, but I'd carry this feeling home with me, this sense of standing firmly in my own power. I'd arrived in Italy as the woman always pushed to the margins. I was leaving as someone who had claimed her place at the center of her own story. And no one, not even Lauren, could ever push me back to the edges again. The morning of our departure came with that bittersweet feeling that marks the end of something special. We'd packed most of our things the night before, suitcases lined up in the entryway like obedient soldiers. Now there was just the final sweep through rooms, the last cups of Italian coffee, and goodbyes to our temporary home. Flight's at 2, Becca said, checking her phone. Car will be here in an hour. I nodded, running my hand along the smooth stone wall of the villa. I'm just going to take one last walk around. The villa felt different in the morning light. Golden, warm, alive with memory. I trailed my fingers over countertops and door frames, trying to absorb it all. Every room now held pieces of my triumph. Little moments where I'd reclaimed something I hadn't even realized I'd lost. You know that feeling when you've been holding your breath for so long you forget you're doing it? Then suddenly you exhale and realize how much tension you've been carrying? That's what this trip had been for me. A long, satisfying exhale. I stepped outside onto the gravel path, savoring the crunch beneath my sandals. The air smelled of rosemary and sun-warmed stone. My footsteps carried me toward the front of the villa, where our sign hung proudly above the arched entryway. I stood beneath it, looking up at those hand-painted words. Reserved for those who know what family means. Not angry words, not bitter ones, just true ones. Through a village acquaintance, I'd heard that Lauren had maxed out her credit cards booking last-minute accommodations. The friends who'd abandoned her had gone home early, unwilling to salvage the trip. Her carefully curated social media presence had gone silent. No posts, no updates, no carefully staged photos of Tuscan sunsets. The financial hit was one thing, but for Lauren, the social humiliation was devastating. Her currency had always been admiration, attention, being seen as the successful sister, the glamorous one. Now her friends had witnessed her lies unravel in real time. I didn't feel the rush of satisfaction I'd expected. Instead, there was something quieter, a sense of balance restored, of justice, not vengeance. There you are, Becca called, walking toward me with her phone held up. One last photo before we go? Right here under your masterpiece? I smiled. Absolutely. I positioned myself beneath the sign, the morning sun warming my shoulders. Behind me, the villa glowed golden pink in the early light, its windows reflecting the sky. This place that Lauren had tried to claim, that she'd specifically excluded me from, had become mine in every way that mattered. Perfect, Becca said, framing the shot. You look different. Different how? I asked, holding my smile. She lowered the phone for a moment, studying me. Strong, at peace, like you figured something out. I had, hadn't I? After years of letting Lauren's shadow define me, I'd stepped into my own light. Not with screaming or drama, her tools not mine, but with quiet, meticulous planning, with patience, with my own particular strengths. Say arrivederci, Villa, Becca prompted, raising the camera again. Instead, I simply smiled, calm, unbothered myself. The shutter clicked. She showed me the result, and I felt something settle in my chest. There I was, standing tall beneath our sign. My hair lifted slightly in the breeze, my smile genuine. Behind me, the villa seemed to embrace the moment, its stone walls and red-tiled roof aglow against the blue Tuscan sky. The photo captured exactly what I felt. Not triumph over Lauren, but triumph over the part of myself that had accepted being secondary. And Lauren? She was nowhere. Not in the photo, not in this moment. For once, her absence felt right. It's perfect, I said, and meant it. Becca tucked her phone away. I'm going to miss this place. Me too. I turned for one last look at the villa. But we took what we needed from it. We walked back to the entrance where our bags waited. Our new friends from the village had already said their goodbyes, promising to stay in touch. The car would arrive any minute to take us to the airport. Becca checked her watch. Ready? I nodded, then paused, something settling into place inside me. You know what I realized? I said, turning to her. What's that? All those years, Lauren used words to push me down. Words and noise and drama. But in the end, I gestured toward the villa, the sign, everything we'd experienced. I didn't need any of that to win. No, Becca agreed. You didn't. I picked up my bag, a sense of quiet satisfaction flowing through me. Sometimes, silence says everything. I believe stories like this find us for a reason. If this one touched you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day, and tomorrow's might be the one your heart's been waiting for.